So I don't know about you, but in the middle of this coronavirus pandemic, being stuck at home with my significant other for the last 3 months has really brought up a lot of issues of intimacy and closeness that I don't think any of us were ready to deal with. I've been talking to my next guest for the last several years about something that he's an expert in, which is intimacy, sex, relationship, and he's been, doing his own research for the past couple of decades. He's the owner of the Tantra Institute, which is an international an international school for Tantra and I don't even know what words to use, which is why he's on the show. Guy Shahar. Guy, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me on the show, Mark.
It's
Good to
funny
be
because
here.
this conversation, I stumble over the introduction of who you are and what you do so much. I'm a 58-year-old man. I should be really well versed and really comfortable talking about sex, about intimacy, about closeness, and that's the reason I want to have you on the show. It's been 3 months, and you and I have talked. You work with a lot of singles and dating people, and then you also work with people in relationship.
Yes.
So I wanted to have you come on the show and just talk about this this really elusive thing of relating to each other, whether it's men and women, women and women, men and men. That we're not going to worry about the flavor at this point.
Awesome.
So you've
Let's
been
talk
you've been
about it.
doing you've been doing this for a year. How did you get it? Why are you an expert in human sexuality and relationship?
Why am I an expert in
Yeah,
human
what's your
sexuality
origin
and
story? Why did you
relationship?
why did you make this the thing that you're focused on?
Well, in a short word, I made a lot of mistakes. That's what makes me an expert. I've done a lot of dating. I've made a lot of really, really bad choices. And I've managed to hopefully learn from them and then be able to guide other people through that what can be a veritable minefield, right?
Mm.
Um, Yeah, so I don't know exactly where my journey begins. There's many paths to answer that question, but that's sort of the gist of it is you know, when I was younger and in my formative years, I was really trying to figure out what it meant to be a man. And when I was in college, I had a group of guys around me that were sort of like alpha guys, and they would tell me that I wasn't man enough. And that kind of like, I guess, traumatized me to a certain degree. I mean, I hate using that word; it's so overused at this point. But it kind of really affected me when I'm around all these guys and they're telling me that I'm not man enough, or they're making fun of me. And so I, kind of in my 20s, I sort of launched into this era where I was determined to prove that I was a real man. And I did a lot of martial arts. I did a lot of going to the gym, and I did a lot of dating. That was my understanding of what it means to be a man is you get notches on your belt, right? And so I devoted a lot of time every day to dating. I developed sort of my own dating system. I mean, of course, I was very passionate about women always. So,
Mm.
dating was a really fun thing to do, when you love women and you're a man and you're heterosexual and all that other stuff. I had a whole system and I learned a lot. And, in New York City, you have people of different cultures, different origins. So you really kind of, take in a lot of information and data, and you really get to feel people from different cultures, which is really beautiful and very, very necessary. And, through that process, I dated a lot. I had sex a lot. And, I was always like, I look back now and I was always trying to love these women more. Like, how can I love you more? Like, this is great. This is fun. But like, I feel like there's something more. I don't know what it is. Right.
Mm. They must have
Um,
loved you, by the way, because that's a rarity.
sometimes, and sometimes I was kind of a bit of a jerk because like I didn't really know what I was doing. I was stumbling along trying to figure out what this relationship thing is. And I didn't have the greatest role models. We don't really have great role models if you look out in, so the world and the popular culture and whatnot, there's very few. Um, in everybody's home life, everybody's parents are very different. And you sort of grow up thinking, oh, relationships are like that. And then you realize, no, they can be anything that you decide. Right. And that you would just was the template that was working in that moment. So, through the process of wanting to get closer to these women, I had a really bad breakup when I was 29 that really kind of shifted me. And I started really going on this path of becoming a seeker. I wanted to learn everything that I could, and I
So
discovered a
generally,
lot of
you
different
mean speaker,
things.
you mean spiritual seeker, so
Yeah.
growth and really really just growing yourself, not just
Yes.
with the in dating and relationship.
Mhm. Yeah, totally. I mean, like, I was doing yoga and meditation, experimenting with just about everything I could get my hands on. And at some point, I discovered Tantra and other sort of related practices. And, through the study and the practice of that, things started to shift. And all of a sudden, I was able to be more intimate with women, whereas before I couldn't. I also felt more connected to men. Like there was just an opening where I was just able to connect with people deeper than I was capable of when I was younger. And, that really started to shift everything. And somewhere along the line, I, started running events, again. And before you know it, I started, particularly, I started a dating event. So I got laid off from my job. I had a midlife crisis, and then I created a dating event. It's sort of like the evolution of how it created, and the dating event just sort of like built a business around itself, and I just sort of struggle it, run behind it, and try to keep up with it. And then that led to other courses. Now we have over 18 courses in 30 cities. We have 20 facilitators teaching those courses, and it just sort of ballooned. But that was never the plan. There was no plan. It was just like, hey, now I'm doing this, now I'm doing that. So, yeah, there was no plan. I don't know how I ended up here. Now I'm on this podcast with you. Who knows what happens next?
Right? Hey, how many cities are you teaching in now?
Well, I mean, we were traveling a lot more and teaching, before the pandemic.
But
So now all the classes are online.
but the
But
but the
I
one the
think
one before the pandemic, you were in
30
like
cities.
30 cities in different countries, every place, and it was really a
Yeah,
pretty
England,
incredible
Canada.
business. One of the thing I love about asking the question about the origin story is almost everybody who comes onto the podcast, their expertise, the thing that they're passionate about and that they've really dedicated their life to, comes from some pain earlier, some inadequacy, something that they were trying to fix. And so when you were having issues with your the guys at school, and mine was at 13 when this girl told me that I was a prude and I wasn't man enough, and then she went and dated an older guy. Like I'm 58 years old, I've never forgotten that, right? So those wounds start to push us into growing in different areas. But you said something really interesting. You said when you went on the growth path and you were doing yoga and growth and tantra, you were able to become more intimate with women. Now, before you said you were having plenty of sex with women, you were dating a lot, and you were doing all that. So you made that distinction. And when I had episode 200 a few weeks ago, I did the 14 things that I've learned having 150 conversations. And the thing I've learned is that there is a difference between sex and intimacy. Being in a long-term relationship, I have learned there's a difference between sex and intimacy. I know how to
Hmm.
go do sex. I didn't know how to do intimacy, which is, I think, something you really focus on.
You didn't know you didn't know.
I didn't know that I didn't know intimacy. I thought I was really open and connected and all that. And after several years, and then doing work on my own relationship, finding out that intimacy is terrifying.
Totally is. Why do we even bother with it? Let's just shut down the podcast right now and just go home.
But you again, you've dedicated your life, and one of the things I love about your work, and I love talking to you about your work, is because of the breakthroughs that you bring people through. Because whether you're single or whether you're in a long-term relationship, this is a bone of contention for almost everybody. So
Hmm.
why do people show up in your world?
They, I guess initially they want better sex, and then they discover that intimacy is the way to get it. You know, we always think that we have a particular want, and then it's never actually the thing that we really need. It's just the direction that we head out to try to find the thing that we really need that we don't really know because it's in there. There's uh, it's like when you're writing a screenplay. Used to write screenplays. I was a filmmaker, and there's what the character wants, and then there's what they actually really need, right? And so the want is just an expression of trying to get whatever it is that I need. That could be a feeling, could be a sense, but it's like, oh, I'm going to get it by, going out with women, or I'm going to get it by, having really great sex. And it's like, well, no, that's that's a fun place to go to try to find it, but it's not out there. It actually all starts here. Like, are you intimate with you? Are you connected to you? Are you your greatest relationship? Because if you're not connected to you, you can't connect to somebody else. Because who are you connecting with if you're not first bringing? If I'm not connected to me, who am I bringing to connect with you? Right? I have to be authentically connected to me in order to connect with you. If I'm pretending to be something, or I'm ignoring a piece of myself, or I'm pretending that this doesn't exist, or I am not connected to myself, then what am I bringing to a connection? I'm connecting with you in some way, but a piece of me is elsewhere, not present. Right?
Totally. That makes sense to me now. That didn't make sense to me before. I just it was either relationships didn't last long enough to figure that out, so that the newness and the hotness was enough to keep it going. And then in the relationship that I was in, the long term relationship, I'll say my marriage, there was so many other things going on that it was really tough to tease that out. So where do people start when they come to you, and they're coming to you because they want better sex, and then you have to do that little bait and switch and go, well, if you want better sex, you got to get to know yourself better. Where do you start them? How do they start to do that?
It's a good question. I mean, it's interesting because it's definitely not a bait and switch, because it's like, I think it's just people generally come to you and they're like, "Hey, do you have this magic pill that's just going to make me this amazing lover?" And I'm like, "Well, no." You don't go to that would be as ridiculous as going to a personal trainer and saying, "Hey, I want to do an hour session with you." And then you do an hour session and then you come back and you're like, "Dude, why is my body not completely transformed? You're a personal trainer. I just did a 1 hour of workout. Why don't I look like, this person in the magazine? What's up?" Right? Like, it's it really is like going to the gym. It's a practice. It's something you have to keep doing, and that you have to be committed to. There's no sort of quick fix. um you know People always wanting that, they want the technique or the magic thing that's going to create this intense amount of pleasure. And it's like, well, you have to be connected, and then you're going to know what it is. You're not going to need me to tell you. But
Which is ironic because you also teach techniques,
yes, of course, because
right?
once
So,
you're connected, now you have all these different tools you can play with. But if you're not connected, techniques aren't going to work. It's a technique when you're not connected is like a remote control without batteries. It's like, yeah, I can give you a million remote controls. If you don't have the batteries, they're not going to work. It's, they're just going to take up space in your apartment.
so again, what are some beginner exercises? What are ways that I can get in touch with myself to just even start if I have never thought about that before?
Okay, well, let's try one. How in touch with your body do you feel right now on a scale of 0 to 10? 0 being I'm totally disembodied, and 10 being like, oh my God, I'm super in my body right now.
I'm about an 8. I'm pretty in my body.
Pretty in your body. Okay. Um, well, I was going to do an exercise to take you deeper into your body. We can try
Uh,
it.
I'm totally okay with going deeper into my body.
Okay. All right. So, well, it's best if you can sit on the floor, but if you have a comfortable chair and you can make sure that your spine is erect, that'll be good.
I'm in my $1,500 ergonomic perfect chair.
I see. Your meditation, this was designed for meditation chair. Okay. So, why don't you do this? I invite you to close your eyes so that you're bringing your energy inward. And on your in breath, I invite you to imagine that you are breathing in through your heart. On that in breath, as you breathe in through your heart, this nourishing, life giving air, you feel your heart fill with a nourishing, life giving air.
I'm already more connected.
Well, then we're done.
Keep going.
All right. So you're breathing in through your heart, feeling your heart center, the center of love. It's the fourth chakra in Tantra. And now on your exhale, I want you to imagine sending that love all the way down your spine to your tailbone. And now I want to invite you to imagine that you are sending out energetic roots from your tailbone down through the floor, down through the foundation, down through the earth, traveling through the layers of the earth until you reach the earth's core. And imagine this connection to your heart, to your spine connected to the earth's core. And once you're connected to the earth's core, imagine that these energetic roots are grabbing a hold of something in order to create a taut rope, a tight connection between yourself and the earth. And now you can gently open your eyes.
So much better.
Scale of 0 to 10.
No, I'm definitely a 10. But I'm also calmer in my body.
Mm-hmm.
Before we were doing the podcast, I was on the phone with my accountant, so that was like still rattling in the back of my head,
Right.
right? And my significant other is right outside my window while I'm recording a podcast, cutting the lawn, and so like I'm in my body, but I'm tense and I have things going on, and now I'm so in my body, in my chair. Now I feel like I can, be with you in the podcast even more than when we started.
Wasn't that a lovely change of pace?
It's brilliant, and you know, to state the obvious, I can see how being in relationship with
Mm-hmm.
another human from this space versus the other space is the complete game changer.
Yeah. It's interesting because you know, uh, there's a lot of similarities between acting and tantra. And when I was an actor, we would say your job is to change the energy in the room. When you go in for an audition, when you're reading a part, your job is not to read the part and do well. Your job is to change the energy in the room. And so we just changed the energy in the room. Didn't take very long.
No, especially with a master like you.
Yeah.
It's very, 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 very good. So tell me about the evolution of couples and people who go on this journey of tantra. They go to their first class with you,
Mm-hmm.
and they're whether they're single and they go meet people because you do dating and you have such a
Mm-hmm.
plethora of programs for people. Uh, what's the progression as you get deeper into this? What do people start to find out about life, about themselves, about relationship?
Well, it's really beautiful now that we have. I mean, we're teaching almost every night now, somewhere or somehow. Like there's a class almost every night, a workshop. There are many events that go on, and the really beautiful thing is that we get to really get to know people. I mean, generally we travel a lot when we teach, but now there's so many events that you get to know people. People come back, and so you get to witness how they change. So that is yeah, that's one of the really beautiful things. You get to see someone, from when they first come in, and then you get to see them like, a few months down the road, and their energy is totally different, right? Or, I'm thinking of one particular woman, who came in and, a few months down the road, like her energy was just so open to men. And so, and she was attracting all these men into her life. And in the beginning, her energy was very closed and sort of guarded, right? And so you can see these shifts as you connect more to yourself, you're able to connect more with others. You also feel more safe. Like when I'm fully connected to me, it's like
Mm.
I know that nothing can harm me. I'm not afraid of anything because I've got me. I've got all of me, right? And I can handle anything. So, I think that's actually one of the barriers to intimacy today is, we're very, very concerned about things having to be safe. um, in order for us to have intimacy. I don't feel safe saying this. I don't feel safe saying that. I want to say this to you, but I don't. You just said something that doesn't make me feel safe. Like we're a little overly concerned with safety, which
Sure,
really is kind of ridiculous because there is no such thing as safety. Like it's totally a construct that we made up. Life is inherently risky.
sure.
And if you don't believe that, you should look at what happened at the end of every single person's life. It ends in death.
Nobody
That is
gets out of this
inherently
life
not
alone.
safe.
Totally.
Exactly. So there is no safety. And I like to say that there's no safety, there's only risk. And so the question is, what are you willing to risk to have more intimacy? Are you willing to risk having an uncomfortable conversation with your parent in order to be more have a greater relationship with them? Right? Are you willing to risk having an uncomfortable conversation with somebody else? Are you willing to risk walking up to this woman that you're interested in and talking to her, and seeing, if that might become your life partner, right? I mean, it's what are we willing to risk for that intimacy?
You also teach a lot about how to ask for what you want, how to give feedback, which is that was a new one for me. It was a conversation with you that actually told me the difference between giving, asking for feedback from a partner in
Uh-huh.
one way that puts them right into their head so that they're no longer there, and then asking in a different way so that they stay in the sensation and that you can still be with them. It was really pretty interesting. There's so much skill in this at the same time as being present and embodiment. It's really amazing. I would imagine also that you get reports from people that as they get more connected to their bodies and feeling safe, that it helps their careers and other areas of their lives.
Well, yeah, I mean, naturally, you know, the more of yourself you're connected to, the more of yourself you're bringing out into the world. So, the greater your benefit and your value is to the world, and the more enjoyment you're getting from the world in return, right? And particularly, I mean, our singles events are not sexual events; they're speed dating events, but they have that kernel of connection and tantra in them. Um, but there for the people that do the advanced courses, it's like, well, once you figure out your sex, like that's really kind of core and primary to who you are. So when you figure that out, it ripples out anywhere. I mean, when you can learn, had a woman said this in a class that that she learned how to ask for what she wanted in the bedroom, and so going to her boss's office and asking for a raise was like easy as pie. It's like I know how to ask my partners for exactly what I want in a way that makes them feel good and want to give it to me. It's like, I can ask for a raise. That's easy, right?
It makes perfect sense
Yeah.
to me.
We have
So,
we have a whole event called Desire, which is all about practicing asking for what you want. So, that's key, right? You have a desire, and that desire is your compass in life. And our process in life, I guess, in one way could be looked at as a way of navigating our desire and trying to give ourselves what we want.
incredible. So right now you were doing live events all over the place, and now you're doing them online. So
Yes.
where can people find you so that they can maybe sign up for these events?
Well, they can go to our website, tantrany.com. We have a variety of really fun things that we just started doing because of the pandemic. Because, we didn't have time when we were traveling around the country all the time. We'd be like 2 days in a city and then a day here and then flying all over the place. Now that we're home, we have time to, experiment, create more events. We've done a lot of free and donation based events that are really fun. So we have a community event now every Sunday. Every month we do a sex and relationship Q&A. That's a free Q&A. There's so much going on. So if you go to the website, tantrany.com, you'll see all of our events. And then there's sort of a separate sub website with Tantra Speed Day where you can choose your city and find an event there. And
So
then Lauren has a variety of classes for women, which are very popular. And I just started a men's program.
that's right. And
Yeah.
I was remiss in mentioning Lauren, your co-founder, at the
Hmm.
beginning of the podcast. So you have both the male and the female energy classes for both, and something for everybody is what I see.
Yeah. And it's fun. And you meet really cool people. We really do have a great community of folks,
It
and they
is.
know how to have fun.
You have taught me a ton, and I really appreciate that. You are a master at what you do. I'm very careful, especially around this subject of who I would bring onto the podcast. And knowing you and your integrity and the love that you have for people, I would really wanted to share you and your expertise with my audience, because we're all, again, as I started stumbling at the beginning of the podcast, we're all stuck with our partners, and kind of that friction of we weren't supposed to be together so much, And now
Right.
having, and the intimacy that's come out of being able to actually have conversations that we couldn't have before. It's really been an eye-opening experience. So I'm going to put all your contact information in the show notes so people can just click on it and go see you. And I think what's really fun about the online stuff is it's not as much of a commitment as going into a room with a group of people, so they can test the waters with you before everything opens up and they can go back in and play even deeper.
Indeed. Indeed. Yeah.
So, Guy,
Thank you, Mark.
thank you for taking the time.
Appreciate
Thank you
it.
for sharing your expertise. And to everybody else, like one day we talk about mental illness, the other time we talk about leadership, and now we talk about intimacy. It's this is a fun ride at the Mastering Midlife podcast. So please be safe, take care of yourself, drink lots of water. Remember, the stress level these days are really, really high. I love you, and have a great rest of the day.